Greetings, good people. Welcome back to another edition of Leaders and Learners, where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. Listen, let's be honest. We spend thousands of dollars on travel ball, private coaches, camps, showcases, new cleats, but act like the space between our kids' ears is on a payment plan, okay? I have Dr. Holly Roehl here today, and she's going to call out all of this from a standpoint that maybe you haven't heard before. She's a mental health performance coach, a former collegiate basketball player, an Ironman finisher, and a protege of the late Dr. Ravizza, the godfather of mental skills training in baseball. He helped the Chicago Cubs break a 102-year World Series drought. Do you hear me? Dr. Holly, I'm so excited to have her. She trains the mind the same way that great coaches train the body. And today, she's going to tell you why that might be the most important investment that you ever make in your student athlete. This episode is for every parent who has ever wondered why their kid shuts down under pressure, loses confidence after one bad game, or burns out before they even reach their prime. We're going deep today. Welcome, Dr. Holly Roehl. Hey.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Doctor, I'm so thrilled to have you here. We were talking before we came on, and I personally think some of these parents might need you too, but we'll just start with the kids. Okay, we'll just start with the kids. I want you to talk about your story. You were a collegiate basketball player. You made the Final Four your freshman year, right? And then you dislocated your shooting elbow, I believe. No mental You didn't have a mental skills coach. Like what you're talking about, you didn't have. No one was guiding you through the psychological wreckage that most players go through when they get hurt. What was going through your head? And honestly, how long did it take before you stopped pretending like you were fine?
It took, it's horrible getting hurt anyways. And then when that happened to me, all I had was the trainer. That's it. And I was really just doing training and coming out. I felt very isolated. I didn't have a whole lot of contact with the girls. I was mainly just on the side trying to learn new plays. You know how hard that is when you're not even on the floor and you kind of felt like you're left out. So anytime there's a game coming up, you're just kind of sitting there on the sideline. And I was just so alone and isolated. And it takes a long time to get over that. And unfortunately, because of that, I really lost my passion for the game. And I left the game because of that. So because that happened to me, I'm like, you know what? I don't want other people to go through that there is a way through. And with the sports psychology, I was in the forefront of being in sports psychology and training in my master's, getting my doctorate in it. And so I've been in it for quite a while at the forefront of it. And again, like you said, I trained under Ken Ravizza. So he is amazing. So that's why I said, it's not only injured athletes. I says it's athletes in general. How
Yeah.
do they cope with coaching issues? How do they cope with parent issues? And this is at all levels. So I'm like, wow, this really intrigues me because if I had somebody, I probably wouldn't have quit. I probably would have continued on and battled through. But when you don't have anybody behind you and nobody to help you, you're isolated and you're like, well, I guess this is it. I'm done. And
Right.
that's what happened to me.
Well, you seem to have turned that 20 years of competing, including Ironman Arizona. So, for parents listening who think mental toughness is something you either have or you don't, what would you say to them based on your own experience building that?
Oh, definitely. You can build that. It's trainable. It's from a growth mindset. If you want to change, you can change. And that's what I'm here to do is help those kids get over these obstacles, have a growth mindset, knowing that uh, there's other opportunities out there of getting your mindset in a positive way versus just letting it get to you out there. Sports are supposed to be fun. It shouldn't be stressful. It shouldn't be anxiety. And I think what's happening in the work in there is that 70% of these kids are quitting by the age of 13. Is that going to be your child because of the pressure, because of the anxiety? So having a mental skills coach or a mental performance coach, as I am, that's the missing link out there. It's definitely the missing link, because what I show them on the field or on the court translates into the classroom, into work and on. They will always carry these skills. I've got players who, 13-year-old swimmer of mine, she had a huge project due and she used my skills. She came back and she says, Dr. Holly, I used your skills on my project and it went great. I got an A. And I go, there you go. I said, that's what it's about. And the youth that I'm working with are very, very thirsty. They learn, they engage, they want to learn this, and their parents see a difference. After the first time I had one, Leighton, he was 10, he was in a huge hitting slump. And after my first session, his first tournament, he went 10 for 12. He had great plays at shortstop, and he was the MVP, and their team won the first time in 2 years since he's been on the team. They won the tournament. He said this did more for him. The mental skills training that I helped him did more than his hitting lessons. So parents have to pay attention that hitting lessons are good. But again, when you're not seeing results from practice to the game, that's anxiety. Everybody can do practice. When you're coming in that box and you're looking at a lot of different velocities and movement of that ball coming across that plate, that is the hardest thing you will ever see. And if their anxiety's up right in the box. So again, I can point to Aaron Judge. He didn't break Roger Maris's record until he had a mental skills coach, and he had 61. He beat Roger Maris for the All-American League, All-League, So again, he didn't do it, and it took 60 years to do it.
60
But
years.
there again, that's the power of training the mind.
It's funny you say that the anxiety starts when they get in the box. I think it's when they are, before they even get in the box.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something that goes on that clicks, no matter how confident they think they are. That minute they're on deck, it changes.
It does.
Give me the most important thing you learned about yourself as an athlete that you now use to help young athletes that no one taught you when you were coming up.
A couple things that I know is perseverance. Have that. Keep going. Be resilient. Just keep going and keep learning. You have to remember, you're learning all the time on that court, on that field. You're always want you to move forward. Okay. It takes 10,000 hours to master a skill. Okay. How many hours have you put into your physical? Now, how many hours have you put in to your mental game? Look at it this way. You have a car. How well is your car going to go if the engine isn't tuned up? So how well is your athlete going to perform if their mindset isn't performing with their body? Think about that. Really think about that. And I want to let a lot of parents need to think about that, because they go hand in hand. My slogan and what I always praise is lead with the brain, the body will follow. Whatever you're thinking, your body's listening. So if you go up to the plate and you say, gosh, I hope I don't strike out, what did you just tell yourself? I'm going to strike out. It's all about training the mind when you get in those anxious situations.
Parents will drop easily $400 on a bat, $300 on cleats, $2,000 on a showcase, a camp, and then look at you dead in the face like mental skills training. What are you talking about? Why do we treat the brain like it came standard and doesn't need any upgrades?
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a good question. If they're always improving physically, you think you got to get more reps and more all of this going on, more hits. That's not necessarily true. If your brain is not working with your body, you are only going to go so far on your physical abilities, plain and simple. The difference between a great player and a good player is the great player can handle the anxiety, can handle the pressure. These young kids are young and they cannot handle the pressure. Whether parents want to know it or not, there's a lot of things going on out there that they have pressure.
Yep.
And one of it is you're playing on two teams at the same time for baseball. You're playing in two sports at the same time. You're playing year round. Those three things, there are studies that show, the National Alliance of Youth Sports, this is not good. This is why 70% of these kids quit by the age of 13. And that's what I need. It's not working. And the sad part is these parents think this is the way they got to go. And then they go down the road and 13 comes around. They put all this money in when they started at 5, 6, 13, they're done. The sooner they start, the sooner they're going to end. So like when we were growing up and I was growing up, I didn't have the opportunity to have travel ball. It was camps in the summertime. I played volleyball in the summer, in the fall. I played basketball in the winter and do track or softball in the spring. It doesn't then, cross training is so important.
It is.
If a lot of coaches want to see that when you go to college, they want multi-sport athletes because you're training more than just that repetition of muscles. And that's where you get burnout and overuse injuries. And I don't think parents really understand. Kids need a break. They need a break. They need to recover. Just because they're young doesn't mean that they can go, go, go. And I want to stress that. You should not play more than 8 months a year, as studies show. And you know that if you specialize in one sport, you have 46% of those athletes are going to end up with lower body injuries, as opposed to multi-sport kids, youth, they only get hurt 26% of the time. So it's double when you specialize.
Yep.
So you really need to take care of the kids, and really, mom and dad, it's okay if they don't. They think that if they don't play, they will not get an opportunity, or they won't make this team, they won't get here, they won't get there. Well, or a scholarship. Well, I think the most important thing is being a multi-sport athlete, take breaks, have fun. These kids are, and learn the mental side of the game and how it can enhance and it contributes to their physical play, and it'll elevate their game performances.
Holly, you trained under the late Dr. Ken Ravizza. You mentioned that. And for those of you that don't know, he is literally the pioneer of mental skills in
Mm-hmm.
baseball. He worked with Mike Trout, one of the
Mm-hmm.
greatest hitters in the game, and helped the Chicago Cubs win the World Series after 108 years. What does it mean to carry that lineage and apply those same elite level frameworks to youth sports?
Oh, it's incredible to be able to have that avenue. I just love helping all athletes at all levels. It's just, again, like I said, it's the missing link. And to be able to give that, and just being as an athlete, I used all of these techniques that I share with my athletes, because doing an Ironman, it's a lot of hours, and there's a lot of times you might get hurt, you get strains. You have to take care of your body, but you also have to take care of your mind and recuperate not only your body, but you have to recuperate the mind as well. So Ken Ravizza was amazing. He is just, by the way, on Mike Trout, did you know that Mike Trout thought that he had to get a hit every single time he was at bat?
Where do
But
you, where do you get that idea?
well, Ken Ravizza says that's not going to happen. You know, that's just because, again, it's part of the game, not every time. So when he worked with Mike Trout, look at what he's done. I mean, he's done great. Aaron Judge has done great. A lot of the pros and colleges all now have mental performance coaches working with them. And that's why I want to make sure we get out the message that it's such an important link and missing link for parents to know. And I just don't understand why they think having 4 bats is important. You can only play with one. And I know the kids love the new bats, but let's kind of look at the whole picture and try to, mental performance is so important, key, because that's what's going to get them I want them to play as long as they want to, and this is going to help them.
What age do you usually advise people to start with mental training?
Yeah, I've had young as 8, 9. It really depends on the maturity of the youth, the athlete. I have a lot of 9 and up. I've had a few 8s, but it also I do a conference call, a complimentary consultation, just to kind of get a feel of, is this going to be a good fit for that youth? Because not every athlete that I consult is going to be a good fit for the program that I have. But I've had great success in all my young athletes. I have a 4-week program. It is geared to all of the research behind it, because I've studied the sport. I've been an athlete. The research shows why these methods and mental techniques work. And I share that with my athletes. You can't get this from a book. Kids are too busy with books. Parents are too busy with books. We can't be doing checklists and doing it. You have to understand, I present it in a way that it's very simplified down for all athletes, whatever level they're at, and they do very well once they figure it out. And I teach them how they can actually start to see how the mind and the body work together. And they're like, wow, they've never thought of it like that. And once you share that, the whole light bulb goes on, and like, wow. And then when they go out and they try it, the parents see it. I had one parent who said, oh my God, he's a completely different player out there. They're like, it's not the same kid. And another one.
I have to ask, have you had a situation where it was a right fit for the kid, but maybe the parents were the problem?
Yes, I do.
Talk to me about that.
You see that, where I do see a lot of parents trying to live through their kids. Unfortunately, if they were an ex-athlete, didn't go as far as they wanted to go. I do see, and whether parents realize that or not, that's a lot of pressure on these kids. Just have to let them enjoy the game, and back off. But what I do is, in my program, I talk to my athletes, and what I do is empower them to own their sport. This is your sport. You own it. You're part of it. And I get them to have conversations, have courage and confidence to talk to their parents if they're older. It depends if they feel like they can talk to them, especially if I have teenagers. It's very important to have them be able to communicate with their parents, communicate with their coaches, because coaches do not want to hear from their parents, especially when they're in high school, and definitely not in college. So it's very important that I empower them, and I also work with parents. I have a lot of parents who ask me, what do I do? What do I do after the game? And you know what? The first thing I tell them is, go ask them, where do they want to eat?
What is the most damaging thing that you think a parent has said after a game, even with the best intentions and well-meaning?
I think when they say, you could have done this better, or what happened here, and they're almost grilling their kid, like, why didn't you do it this way? What happened out there? You know what? Your kid and your child knows what they did wrong, and they're already beating themselves up about, I should have done this. They're replaying that whole game in their head. Just to let you know, I did. After every basketball game, I replay that entire game in my head. All your kids out there, they're replaying that whole thing, and you know what they go to? All the things that they missed, and it upsets them. But when you sit there and say, hey, what can we do to do this and do that? That's just, they already know they feel bad. So that's why I suggest, you know what? I always tell parents, first thing you do, say, hey, I am proud of you. I just love watching you play. I think you did great, because they will eventually ask them where they want to go to eat, and they will eventually talk to you about their experience out there. They will, if they want to talk to you about it. But other than that, as a parent, support them. Say, hey, I loved watching you. That was great. And say, well, I didn't do really good on that. And that's okay. I just love watching you. Enjoy the journey. Parents need to enjoy the journey, because they're not young. They're only young for so long. And you can testify to that.
Yep.
It goes awfully fast.
It does.
And again, they're out there having fun is very important. I had one. She was 13 years old. She was on 18U. She was on 18U team. Her mom was an ex softball player, and she said that she cannot have meltdowns on the mound because there are college recruiters watching her, and she doesn't want the college recruiters to see that she has a meltdown. Okay, first thing, she's 13 years old. No one's looking at her, even if she's on an 18U. You have to remember, parents need to understand, NCAA rules do not allow you to contact these athletes until after their junior year, fall of their junior year. So be aware, in any sport, be aware of the NCAA rules of when coaches can contact these athletes. 13-year-old, no one is going to be recruiting your 13-year-old. No one's going to be probably be recruiting you at 14. These young athletes, when they're saying they're getting verbals, unfortunately, that is probably not true, that people are getting that. So I need parents to be aware of this, okay? They do, because these are young athletes and they get all excited. Oh, somebody said I'm going to play for this college. I go, your body and everything in play can change from 13 to 15 to 16. You know, your kids, you see the difference. They change. The body changes. And I'm telling you, these freshman boys, they have a growth spurt at 14. And watch out, they do, and they completely change.
Yes, they do.
So that's something that parents really need to be aware of.
Holly, give the parent listening right now one concrete mental skill technique they can share with their athlete before a big game this weekend, right? Something that actually works under pressure, not just sounds good.
Right. The one thing that I truly believe is if you don't know anything about mental skills, it's the breath. Breathing is the most important thing out there. So if your kid or your youth athlete is struggling, the first thing they have to do is breathe. That's one of my things that I always say. The reason why is it clears the mind, it relaxes the body. It's twofold, because when you have a clear mind and when you have a relaxed body, your performance is so much more, you're going to be more focused, you're going to have more concentration with that. And if you're breathing, what aren't you doing? You're not thinking about anything else. You're not thinking about a past performance. You're not thinking about inning 7 when you're in inning 1. So that's extremely important. If that's the one thing you want to work on, just work on breathing. Even though there's a lot more to mental skills than that, that's probably the number one thing that I could tell parents for their youth. That's extremely important, is the breath.
I agree. I 100% agree. What does talk to the parents, because sometimes they think they know, but they don't really know. What does that internal self talk of a high performing athlete sound like versus one who crumbles under pressure? And how do you start to shift that in a 10, 12, 14, 15-year old?
Right. The first thing it's being able to recognize that. That's the first thing you need to do. If you don't recognize that you're having negative thoughts, you can't change it. That's the first thing you have to do. You have to first recognize, what am I thinking? And a lot of times kids don't even know they don't realize that they're thinking bad thoughts. They're like, oh, I didn't think about that. So that's why it's so important to get the mind and the body together, is to start to recognize what's going on inside. Why are you thinking like that? What are you thinking? But you have to recognize it first before you can change anything. And that's what I teach them, how to recognize that. And then what we do is we move on, and then we can go ahead, and you have to change that pattern. And that's what I teach, is how do you change that pattern?
I like that. So just acknowledging that you're having negative self-talk.
Yep. If you don't acknowledge it, how are you going to change it? How do you change something that you don't even know? You're like, well, that's just the way it is. No, you can't change until you know it's there. If you're having a negative thought, you're having a meltdown. Whoa, what's going on here? And otherwise, it's going to be a rolling stone. It's just going to go. You're just going to go roll, and you're never going to get out of it. And your whole game could go like that. If you don't know how to stop that, your whole game is going to go down. And that's what I said. You are going to go up to bat. I struck out last time. Oh, I'm going to strike out again. Okay, you probably will.
Quick speed round, because we could talk about this stuff all day. It really is, I would say it's mind boggling, but it's not, because we have doctors like you that can help us figure it out. So we got to tap into the right resources. But tell me this, biggest myth about sports psychology that needs to die right now.
Oh, this one thing is, it is not counseling. We do not counsel. I'm in performance training. We do not put you on a couch and diagnose you, okay? We deal with sports performance training. That's what I do, okay? Because like I tell people, if you break down sports psychology, ology at the end is the study. Psych is the mind. Sport. Study of the mind in sport. That's what sports psychology is. And I think so many parents think that, oh my gosh, I'm going to a doctor and they have mental issues. No, it has nothing to do with anything that might be outside of that. If they have anything else going on, I am strictly performance training in their sport. I don't deal with counseling. If I feel or the parent wants to talk about it, I'd say I would strongly refer you to someone else, because that's not my expertise.
Best thing Dr. Ravizza ever taught you that changed how you work with young athletes?
I think the best thing he ever taught me is, when your performance, I always remember this, it's a chicken sandwich. I remember it vividly. He said, there are so many layers on your chicken sandwich, and how to put it all together and keep it all together is very difficult. So your bun could be this, your tomato, your lettuce, your chicken. It's very hard to keep it all together. But with mental training, that's what's going to keep your sandwich all together. And another thing he always said, if you're not feeling like 100%, maybe you only feel like 70%. Give 100% of what you got that day, because some days you are not going to feel 100%. So don't put pressure on you. Just give 100% of what you got that day. If you only feel 70%, then give 100% of that 70%.
Like,
yep. Because
finish the sentence. The athlete who trains their mental game will always outperform
their competition who do not train their mind, because that's the missing link, and that is your edge. And what I tell my athletes, you know what the best thing about mental skills training? No one knows you're doing it.
Yeah.
You got the edge, and nobody else knows that you're training it. And except for this one father, he actually said, because he knows what he's been trained on, and what his baseball player has done. He goes, I can actually see him working it out there, working through the mental training. But that's just because he knew what he's doing. But other than that, I say, that's your edge. Nobody knows you're working on your mental game. How cool is that? I tell him, I go, you got that edge. And nobody else will have that. And that's the difference, I tell them, between a great player and a good player, is how you master that.
Well, Dr. Roehl, it's been a pleasure having the opportunity to chat with you. Why don't you let the people know how they can get in touch with you, how they can get their consultation? Do they have to be local? Talk
No,
to me about your practice.
no, I do all of my consultations by a phone. I give a complimentary 30-minute phone consultation. And that also can be with your athlete if you want them online or on the call with. I do an athlete intake form. I tell you about my program. And you can go to my website, which is www.hollyroehl.com, or you can email me at drhollyroehl@gmail.com for a consultation. And I go across the nation because all of my sessions or meetings are online through Google Meet. So, and it's nice because my students and my athletes, they're in their own place, a little bit more comfortable, and it's me one-on-one with them. And I'm always transparent. The mother or dad wants to be in the room, they can be with them, next to them, they can be in the room, in the kitchen cooking, or they can just let them be in the room. It's completely up to them how they want to be with their child when I'm on. It'd be like this, we're face to face. I mean, it's really good because it's a little bit more comfortable for them being in their own environment than going to an office. And I can reach so many more kids, and I want to help as many as I can, because I tell you, all my students, I had one, I worked with him, he was a golfer, most competitive. His freshman year, he got on the varsity, and he did so well. His grade point average went up from 3.2 to 3.8, and now I just learned he got a golf scholarship to play on. But I always stress, grades are important. Very
Absolutely.
important.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you. Please stay in touch.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you'll be out in California anytime soon, but if you are, please let us know. Would love to support whatever you have going on. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Listen, the physical reps only get your kid so far. The mental reps are what separate the athletes who make it from the ones who don't. Dr. Holly Roehl is doing the work most of us never got. And most of us that have been athletes were not even aware of the opportunity to have someone help us sharpen our mental skills. And she's making it accessible at very young ages and at every level. I would suggest some of y'all book your consultation. You don't even have to move forward, but at least have the conversation. Invest in the full athlete. That new bat, it can wait. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Mhm.
Hey, thanks for showing up to the podcast where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. When you get a sec, take a moment, leave a comment. What you think about today's episode, and share it with someone that you know could use the gems that were dropped today. Follow and subscribe. You don't want to miss who's coming up next. You never know who could show up here and what they could say. For your professional needs, marketing, PR, communications, and leadership, make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at Sand and Shores, or hit us up at sandandshores.com. Again, thanks so much for showing up. We appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.